I remember the first time I told my family what I wanted to do. I was sitting around the battered kitchen table, the kind of place where the walls are stained with years of arguments, laughter, and spilled secrets. I looked at their skeptical faces, my mother's tight-lipped smile, my father's furrowed brow, my brother smirking like I was joking, and I said, I want to become a forensic botanist. Silence. Then came the laughter, not a gentle chuckle, but loud, mocking, dismissive. My mother shook her head, whispering, "That's ridiculous. Plants? Forensics? Who's going to take that seriously?" "You're wasting your life on plant gossip," my father scoffed. "You're better off becoming a lawyer or a doctor, something people respect." My brother, the worst, said, "You're never gonna make it. No one cares about plants. You're just a dreamer, and dreamers fail." They told me I was an embarrassment, that I'd never amount to anything, that I was chasing a childish fantasy. I felt the sting of their words like a slap across the face, but deep inside, I knew I couldn't let their doubts define me. I was fiery then, stubborn as hell. I poured myself into my studies, ignoring their ridicule, believing in a future where I could prove them wrong. But that future felt distant, like a fragile hope I clung to in the dark. For years, I worked tirelessly, often in obscurity, pursuing forensic botany, a field many mocked as plant gossip, as if my work was trivial. I was dismissed from my university job after my research was stolen by a trusted colleague. The betrayal cut deep. I devoted my life to that research, only to see it plagiarized and dismissed as insignificant. I was humiliated, cast aside, told I was naive. Yet I refused to give up. I turned to forensic botany, not just as a career, but as a way to reclaim my identity. Cold cases, murder mysteries where plants held silent clues, became my obsession. I learned how to read soil samples, identify minute plant traces, and link them to crimes. Slowly, I built a reputation. My work uncovered truths that had been buried for decades, cracked cold cases wide open, and brought justice to families who thought they'd never know really happened. Years passed. My name started appearing in headlines. My methods became recognized in law enforcement circles, and I was invited to speak at conferences. I transformed barren lands, stripped of life, ravaged by development, into thriving ecosystems, using forensic botanical techniques to understand soil erosion, restore biodiversity, and heal wounds inflicted on the environment. My work was not just scientific, it was poetic, a testament that even the most broken places can bloom again. And then, one day, I decided it was time. Time to return home, not just as a visitor, but as someone who had finally proven her worth. I knew what they'd say, what they'd think. I prepared myself for the familiar sneers and dismissive glances. But I also knew I owed them this moment of truth. I arrived unannounced, my car pulling into the driveway of the house I'd grown up in. The familiar, weathered porch looked unchanged, but I wasn't the same person anymore. I stepped out, carrying a folder filled with my latest work, a portfolio of before and after photos of degraded lands turned lush, thriving ecosystems, and case files of cold cases solved with botanical clues. My family gathered on the porch, eyes narrowing as I approached. My mother's face was a mask of skepticism. My father looked surprised, and my brother's smirk was tinged with curiosity. I opened the folder and laid out my work. I explained I had cracked a decades-old murder case where plant pollen and soil samples revealed the killer's route, or how I had transformed a barren parcel of a land into a sanctuary for native species, restoring life where nothing seemed possible. I showed them pictures of forests reborn, of soil teeming with life, of families of law enforcement officers nodding in respect as I explained my methods. Their reactions were a mixture of stunned silence and uncomfortable shifting. My mother's eyes widened as she saw the lush greenery I had cultivated, her lips trembling. My father's jaw tightened, and I saw a flicker of something I hadn't seen before. Perhaps pride, or maybe realization. My brother looked away, but I knew he was grappling with the truth of what I'd become. Then I turned to face them fully. "This is who I am," I said, voice steady, but filled with emotion. I was mocked, dismissed, told I was wasting my life. But I never stopped believing in what I could do. I took the ridicule, the betrayal, and I used it as fuel. Every failed case, every barren land, every doubter in my family, none of it defined me. I proved that even the smallest, most overlooked parts of nature hold the key to understanding the truth, and that's what I do now. A long silence followed. My mother reached out, tears in her eyes. My father nodded slowly, a sign of acceptance I'd never thought I'd see. My brother looked at me differently, less like a critic, more like someone who finally saw the strength I carried. In that moment, I realized something profound. Their rejection was just the beginning of my story, not the end. I had turned my ridiculous passion into a force for justice, renewal, and hope. I had transformed doubt into undeniable proof of my worth. As I packed up my materials to leave, I felt a deep sense of peace. I had come back not just to show them what I'd achieved, but to show myself that I was never truly defeated. That even when the world mocks, when the odds are stacked against you, resilience and faith in oneself can lead to a victory so profound it rewrites the very narrative of your life. And as I drove away from that house, I knew this. The greatest success isn't just in the work you do, but in the courage to pursue what others dismiss as impossible, to grow where they say you can't, to bloom in the face of adversity. That's the real victory. And I was finally standing tall, proud of my second bloom.